I was once one of them, working hard, hoping a lot, trying a lot, dreaming a lot, but always feeling like I was chasing something I could never quite catch. And then I realized I was facing the wrong direction. Success is never something you can chase down. It's not a guest that's running away. It's a mirror. It's there, looking at you, waiting for you to become a version of yourself that's worthy of it before it decides to appear. The world doesn't respond to your desires. It doesn't hear that whisper in your heart saying, I want freedom, I want wealth, I want a different life. The world only responds to what you build, what you act on, what you dare to commit to and stay disciplined with. Success is a result, not a reward. And a result is always honest with the process that created it. I'm not sharing this to teach you a lesson. I'm sharing it because I was wrong for too long. I used to believe that perseverance was enough, that if I just pushed a little harder, worked a few more hours, took on one more project, then things would eventually change. But I didn't understand this. If I didn't change myself, no matter how much I did, I would only keep producing the same outcomes. The difference lies here. You cannot harvest new results from an old identity. If you keep your same old mindset, same reactions, same habits, same emotions, your life won't look any different from yesterday. The world is fair, but it's not gentle. It does not pamper those who are not ready to become the version of themselves worthy of what they desire. You want more? Then you must become more. That's a law, not advice. Someone once asked me, how do I increase my income? I answered, start by increasing your inner value, because money doesn't come to those who beg for it. It comes to those who have created enough space within themselves to hold it. I've seen people receive large amounts of money by luck, by lottery, by gift, but not long after the money disappeared as if it had never existed, because they hadn't yet become the kind of person who could hold on to wealth. And the world always returns resources to the place they belong, to the frequency that is compatible enough to nurture it, grow it, and not destroy it. That's why you can't fake results. You can't fake value. You might copy the actions, even the words of a successful person, but if you haven't truly changed your thinking, your beliefs, your attitude, then your internal system will always pull you back to the level you've always lived at. Personal growth is not optional. It is a basic requirement if you are truly serious about freedom, achievement, and meaningful living. No one out there holds the key to changing your life. Every time you think someone else will come and help you through this phase, you're unconsciously giving up your greatest power. The power to choose to change yourself. The world can support you, inspire you, guide you, but no one can live for you. If you don't rise, no one else will rise for you. This isn't meant to make you feel guilty, it's meant to wake you up. Because once you see that success is something I can build from within, then you no longer need to chase anyone. That is the first moment of true growth, because results do not come from what you receive. They come from the person you are, continuously shaping yourself into every single day. I once went through a period when every morning I woke up, the first thing I thought about was how much I was getting from my job, from the people around me, from the world. I demanded, I expected, I calculated. And then I realized something terrifying. My disappointment didn't come from receiving too little, but from the fact that I didn't feel myself growing. When you only focus on what you're getting, you'll always feel like but when you focus on who you're becoming, you start to feel abundant. Abundant in energy, in motivation, in belief, and in capacity to rise regardless of external conditions. Every job, no matter how big or small, can become a foundation for your personal development, if you look at it from the right perspective. Two people may work at the same company in the same position, earning the same salary, but one sees it as a tool to cultivate discipline, communication skills, and strategic thinking. The other sees it merely as a temporary way to make a living. After 5 years, they are no longer the same. One is still asking for a raise. The other has developed a set of skills that any organization would compete to acquire. Same environment, different questions. The second person isn't asking, how much am I getting from this company, but rather, who am I becoming each day I'm here? You may not be able to fully control your salary, recognition, praise, or validation from others, but you can absolutely control your own personal growth. And that is the only thing truly worth focusing on, because every reward in life, material or emotional, is the natural result of the values you carry. Value doesn't lie in your degrees, your title, or your network. Value lies in growth, and growth cannot be fake. It reveals itself in every handshake, in how you listen to others, in the decisions you make when no one's watching, in the things you do even when no one asks you to. And if you're truly serious about building a life of meaning, you must start with a radical shift in perspective from how much am I being paid to how am I growing? I once met a friend who complained that for 3 years he hadn't received a raise. I asked, in those 3 years, how much have you changed? He fell silent. And I understood the problem wasn't the number on the paycheck. It was the rate of internal growth. If you're not distinctly different from who you were a year ago, then it's only natural that your life hasn't changed either. Not because the world is unfair, but because you're operating with an identity that hasn't been upgraded. Don't blame the market, your boss, the system, or opportunities. Ask yourself directly in the mirror, who am I becoming? If you were the CEO of your own life, would you hire someone like you? If you were an investor, would you invest in the person you are right now? If the answer is uncertain, then it's no surprise that others haven't been ready to give you more either. I'm not saying this to make you feel inadequate. I'm saying it to help you see that you still have power. So many people live their whole lives waiting for change to come from the outside. They wait for policies to shift. They wait for their boss to change. They wait for a better environment. But the one person they've never considered changing is themselves. And that's why they wait forever and never really begin. You don't need to wait. You can choose to act today. Don't ask what you're getting. Ask who you're becoming. Because only when you become someone new, more mature, sharper, kinder, deeper, will everything you desire have a valid reason to come to you and stay. If you never return to the fundamentals, you'll always live with volatility. The advice you receive may change with trends, but fundamentals do not. The market, technology, and social behaviors, all of them shift, often making you believe you must constantly chase to keep up. But the truth is, you don't need to chase the world if you are standing on a firm foundation. And that foundation isn't something you find externally. It lies in principles that have existed for thousands of years and remain true to this very day. I found those principles in the Bible, not because I'm a preacher, not a theologian nor a pastor. I'm simply someone who once fell into crisis and found in those ancient pages a clarity I couldn't find anywhere else. I'm not saying this to convert your religion or encourage a new form of belief. I'm saying it so you understand this. The Bible is not just a book about the soul. It is a practical treasure filled with countless laws that govern not only morality, but economics, finances, work, and success. I opened the Bible not to pray, but to figure out why my bank account was always empty. And what I discovered was this: when you read deeply enough, you'll find passages that speak directly to how you're using or wasting the resources given to you, your time, energy, talents, trust, and even opportunities. I saw myself in the story of the man who buried a single talent in the ground out of fear, thinking that keeping it safe was good enough, but he ended up losing even that. I saw myself in the image of the one who sowed little and reaped little, not because the world was unfair, but because I hadn't dared to sow more. Each line seemed to illuminate the way I was living, and I began to understand that if I didn't change the way I used even the smallest things in life, I would never be entrusted with anything greater. This world operates on laws: the law of cause and effect, the law of action, the law of sowing and reaping, the law of use. All of them have been present in the Bible for a very long time. That feeling of needing to always be impressive, always prove yourself, always show up at the right moment, can drain you without you even noticing. And one day you'll realize the people you tried so hard to impress don't actually care about you. They only remember you when you're loud. When you go quiet, they forget. And that's when you need to understand. If you have to shout to be heard, maybe you're in the wrong place. The attention you seek from others is only worthwhile if it comes willingly, from true connection, from genuine resonance. If you have to act, to strain, to trade pieces of your authentic self for a glance, a like, a word of praise, then you're slowly erasing yourself. That's not success. That's disappearing inside a fabricated shell. When you learn to see your own worth without needing confirmation from anyone else, you stop being dependent on others' reactions to define who you are. And when you walk into the world with that kind of energy, you'll attract exactly those who are meant for you. Those who don't come because you tried to shine, but because they saw the real light within you. Stopping the search for attention is not a journey of turning your back on the world. It's a journey of accepting that you are already enough, whether the world notices or not. And from that fullness, you will be seen by the truest kind of eyes, not those drawn by force, not those captured by chase, but those connected to you through real soul-to-soul presence. There's a familiar image many of us have lived through: chasing someone. A relationship, an opportunity, a glance. As if only by holding on to that thing could we feel our own worth. We strive endlessly to please, to be acknowledged, to not be left behind. We believe that if we try just a bit harder, become a bit better, a bit kinder, then that person, that world, that opportunity will turn around and choose us. But the truth is, true worth doesn't come from whom you pursue. It comes from your calm readiness to become someone who's chosen, naturally. The moment you feel the need to constantly prove your worth is the moment you enter a race with no finish line. The more you run, the more they step back. The more you hold on, the farther they drift. Because anything you have to force to keep will eventually slip away. Not because you're not good enough, but because what's right for you will never require you to sacrifice your dignity. What belongs to you will recognize you. When you live as you truly are, without changing yourself to please anyone, you were not born to be someone begging to be chosen. You were born to be someone who knows their own value and patiently waits for connection to flow both ways. When you know who you are, you don't need to become something else just to stay in someone else's story. Because you understand this. If they can't see the light in you, then no matter how brightly you shine, they will still close their eyes. And if someone truly sees you, you won't need to convince them. There's a truth that awakens us after years of chasing. When you stop playing the role of the chaser, you naturally step into the role of the one who is chosen. You don't need to run toward anything. You remain still, but not passive. You remain still in your fullness. You don't need to fight for attention. Your quiet presence alone is enough to draw in those who are worthy. Because confidence doesn't come from noise. It comes from the calm energy of someone who has learned how to love themselves rightly. When you chase, you unintentionally send a message that says, I'm not enough. I need you to choose me. I need your validation to feel worthy. And people sense that. They won't try, won't invest, won't value. Because they know you'll always be the one to initiate, to hold on first, to stay first.